Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a new remix video. This time we're going to focus on nested routes. I was reading through the documentation. Documentation's awesome, but sometimes I find just kind of building something with the documentation makes things a lot clearer. So that's what we're going to do here. Let's move myself out of the way here and let's just hop straight into the code. So what we're going to do first is we need to create a set of routes that will allow us, basically the concept of the application is I'm going to have a team and a team as players, and you want to kind of wrap a layout around the teams, and then inside an outlet we want to kind of show the list of teams, then show the list of players, and then show a specific player, all inside of a overall container, which I think in kind of Next is called a layout, but we're going to do it with nested routes here in Remix. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to create my teams directory, and then inside of my teams there will be an index.tsx. One thing to note, if I didn't mention already, I'm using StackBlitz. It's pretty awesome how you can spin up a Remix application inside of StackBlitz without really doing much of anything. So I recommend you give it a look-see and actually give it a try. It's pretty awesome. So the first thing that we have my Teams folder. I have my index where the app normally starts, but then I'm going to add another file inside my routes here called teams.tsx. Right, and so the idea that is that teams.tsx is going to be my is going to be the outer container, and then everything that's inside the teams route, I'm going to have an outlet, and it's going to render inside of my teams container. Okay, and so I got some notes. I'm just kind of looking at over here to make sure that I do everything the way I'm supposed to do. All right, so the first thing, and if someone finds a better way to do this, please let me know. Yeah, when the application first starts up, normally it will render the index. I don't want it to render the index. I want it to render my teams. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is right inside of, first of all, let me make myself smaller. I don't need to be this big. The first thing I'm going to do is when I launch my index, I'm going to just redirect, I'm just going to redirect directly to my teams file. And so the way that I'm going to do this, I'm trying something different this time. It's actually typing things, which we'll see how it goes. I'm going to export my loader. And then in my loader, all I'm going to do inside my loader is I'm going to redirect. Redirect. And that will auto import it from there, and I'm going to redirect to Teams. So Teams will be the page that gets shown when the app starts up. And then let me go to my Teams. Let's copy this. And then go here inside of Teams. And we don't want it to redirect, so let's take this out and let's say Teams and see what I get. You get a GET request, local teams, but not provide a loader for the route. Teams. So Teams. And then I need to put some, and then let's take this. And then I need to go inside of my Teams index and actually put something in here. And so, well, the other thing I want to do is like, yeah, let me just do it this way. So let's just copy this here and go inside of my index. And we're going to call this Teams index. And then the last thing that we need to do is go inside of this here, Teams, this top level Teams, this Teams here, that's kind of the outside container of everything. And we need to put our outlet in here. And then let's kind of put an H1 around this. I'll deal with styling later. But the idea is to just try to show visually how this all is coming together. Okay, let's see if I can refresh this and get application area defined. Result gets a little more space here. Route teams, but did not return anything. I didn't? Oh, get rid of that loader there. Teams index return, let's get rid of that. The index redirects me to teams. Oh, actually, it's important to kind of show the folder. So once again, I'm coming to my index, and I want it to redirect to my teams. And so when I redirect to my teams, it's going to do two things. It's going to render this teams, but then it's also going to render this index file inside of teams. Now it's saying you defined a loader for route teams, but did not return anything. So, but I thought I deleted my loader. I mean, loaders, let's see, it just needs to be a, there we go. Okay, so let me just try to, the last thing I'm going to do is let's import the location so we can kind of see where my routes are. It's kind of hard to see it up here. And also let me do this here. Okay, this is the outlet component below. Okay, so actually let's just like I said, I'm not really good with styles, but let's just do it anyway. Let's just put a div so we know what's inside of the outlet. So if I wrap this with a div, and then let's do this style background, and then let's go light gray. See what we get. Okay. And so you can see now it's rendering this index, which is the teams index. Let's change this to teams index. So you can see that's the teams index code. So let's just go back to the top, because it's a little bit confusing for me when I first did it. When you start the application, we're going to render my index. And then with my index, I want it to just go straight to teams. And so when I go straight to teams, it's going to render this. And then in the outlet, it's going to render what's the default or the index route for what's inside this teams path. And what it is right now is just this, the teams index. And so that's how you get that. And so let's go back to this index. Let's go back to my teams index, and let's just put a little bit of margin or padding. Let's just do a padding around this. Let me get some more space here. Okay, so inside of my team index, I want to render a list of teams, and so I do have that code somewhere. So let me just drop that in. Okay, so we're going to just go up to the top here, and we're just going to create some constants that has a bunch of teams. And what a team looks like, it has an ID, it's got a name, and it has an array of players. So I'm just going to kind of compress that so it's not really in our way. And what we want to do is, since I'm not really going to focus on a database right now, I'm just going to use another cool thing, which is a context. I can add a context onto my outlet, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pass the team data down through the context so that any of the other nested routes that want access to the team can get access to the team through the context. And I believe it is really just as simple as saying context teams. And I'll show a link to the documentation for this inside of the React router documentation. So now what that means is that now that I have teams here at the top level and I have it on my outlet, any route that's rendered through this outlet will have access to it. And so the way we can see that is if I now go to teams index, and I can come in here and I can say const, I believe this is it, teams, and I can say use, and then that will give me the teams, and then here it's complaining because it's saying it's not being used, and let's just wrap this with P, wrap that with the P, and then in here, just to show that we have the data, we're going to do a JSON stringify teams. And what's going on? Teams is not existent type. Use outlet context. Use outlet context. So this is not done this way. It is done like this. And so now we have my teams that got passed down to the context. It's unknown type. I should be nicer with my types, but for now I'm just going to do as any to get the little red squiggly line to go away. And see, so now I have my teams passed down inside of my context. So this is the team's index at the top. And so the next thing, well, let's kind of clean this up real quickly since I'm going to want to kind of loop through these. And so let's say teams map. Okay, any. And then for now, we're just going to, I might need to style this later so it's visible. So I'm going to wrap it in a div, which then I'm going to wrap in a link. And that kink link. You can see typing is not my forte, just enough to get the job done, right? And then div again. And so inside of here, we're going to want to render my team.name. And then this link needs to go someplace. So it needs, let's just say key, it needs a 2. And we're going to send it, let's do this. We're going to send it to team ID. So we'll use a team ID. We'll have a separate route that takes a team ID that renders a team. And so that's what we're doing there. Let's import my link. And then let's format this. And so now we have our teams listed. And then it's hard to see, there's a route. So now when I click team 2, oh, it's jumping to that. Let me do the next route. So let's go back. Let's get rid of all right, back to our team. So let's clear this out because we don't need this anymore. So now we have our teams. And now the next thing is I need to go to another route that uses this parameterized route. So what this is saying that I'm going to have a route, and on that route, a parameter called team ID will be getting passed into the new component. So first let's copy this. And let's go back to the top here. And inside of my teams directory, I'm going to create another file called $teamid.tsx. And then inside of there, let's paste this code. This code is a starting point from before. And so now this is going to be my team. So a team detail. Let's call it that. And it's getting passed in an ID with my parameter. And so we are going to need the context again to get it. And let's just call this team detail. So we know which context it is. And then inside of here, we're not going to have to loop through a team, but we will get a specific team. And so we're going to use the outlet that we got from here. But then we are also going to use our params. And so I think I can do this. Let's say const team ID use params. So I thought it would help me out and help with an import on this, but it isn't. So just hold on a second. And I believe this, I think that's in Remix also. So let's see. Well, we're about to find that in a minute. So to get this thing started, what I'll do now, just to make sure that it's working, is I will say team ID. And let's refresh this. And why did it not find? Did I not structure that path correctly? So let's go back to what I wanted to do. Let's go back to my teams. And my team's index, which loops to them. And when you click on it, I'm going to go to /team ID. And that is almost right, because I really, so what I messed up on was I need the full path name, and the full path name is actually teams / and then the ID. And so this should be teams /team ID. Let's try this again. Oh, I messed up again. My bad. I need to do some string interpolation here, so this should actually be. I put the dollar sign, but I didn't put the bracket around it like I wanted to do. And then this is actually t.id. So then I'm getting the ID from this specific team, and I'm passing it in. Let's also fix this too, because it's probably complaining. I just need to have a key, and that key should be the exact same thing, should be t.id. Now let's see. So now we get one. I need the ability to go back. So let's go to my team ID page, and underneath here, let's just put a link, and we'll say back. And on here, we're going to put our 2, and we just want to go back to teams. Let's wrap this in a div. And now it should take us back 3, back 2, back 1. And as you can see, everything's still drawing inside this same outlet that was created here. Let's put this button in here to kind of make this look a little better. button / Sorry, I thought I had some sort of component library that I was using, so let's fix that. And now we can go back 3, 2, 1, back. Let's put a little space so this is a little bit more. Actually, you want to know what? We're not here for style. So team 1, back, team 2, team 3, back, team 2. And everything's still rendering all inside that same outlet that I created at the top level. So now, remember at the top level for teams, this outlet. So everything's being drawn inside of that outlet. I think I can move this over. We don't need all that space. So you can see a little bit more what's going on. So now we have, well, we still want to draw, this is the specific team, but let's get the team name and some other information about the team rendering on this team index page. So this is, so since I have the teams being passed down through the context, I can just pull it off of here. And if we go back to the top level with the teams, the way they were structured, there's just a simple ID. Their IDs match well, they're off by 1 on the index of the array, so I can just subtract it and get the one that I want. Like I said, at the end, depending upon length of this video, maybe we'll add on rolling Prisma back inside of this app. So let's get back over here to team IDs, and then we can go up here to the top, and we can say const team equals teams dash. I gotta turn this thing to a number, I believe. Parse int team ID -1. I should give me my team, and then I should be able to here to just say team.name. And then, so now we have the team name, but then also, let's give this, we won't get crazy, but let's give this a little bit of style. Let's give this an H2 for the team name. And then underneath here, we can list the players. And then we'll do very similar to what we did. Actually, I'm just going to copy the code from the other page and make some minor changes on it. So if we go back to our index here, see how we mapped over all the teams, mapped and looped over teams. We're just going to do the same thing with the players. So here I can just say team dot players and map over them. I have a player, and here we want to use the player ID, and here we're going to use the player name, and I'll fix the ID in a minute. I just see, so now we have our players all listed. Player team 1, player team 2, player 1, team 1. Actually, I don't need a team 1 on the end, but it's there, so let's leave it. So now we get our list of players. And I do have to put some padding in here because just how close it is annoying me. Just keep it simple. And then I'm going to put some padding around my button on the bottom too for the same reason. Okay, so we have our team 1, team 2, team 3. And so if we go back, why can't it read team 3? Team 1? Oh, because I don't have any players. Why is this? Sorry, there we go. There's no players on team 3, team 2. Team 1's the only one that has players, but let's just, yeah. So that's what we got. And so now we'll do one other nesting inside of here to see how this all works, and then we'll try one other change. And so we want to go the next level down and actually see the specific player information, assuming there is additional detailed information on the player. And so we can do this. This is the way that I did it. There's probably an easier way to do it. Here's what I realized when I was going through the sample the first time around. For those of you who are going to say, oh, there's an easier way to do this. If we go back to my teams, you see where I have the players. These IDs are not really that unique. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass in a team ID and a player ID and use that to find the player when I need it on the player detail page. And so what we'll do is inside of my teams directory, to nest my next one, since, like I said, since I need two values, I'm going to need the team ID and I'm going to need the player ID. I can create a file like this and use the parameterized routes to get exactly what I want again. So I go in here and I can say $team ID dot player ID dot tsx. And so that'll give me the parameterized this parameterized route will give me the parameter of a team ID and a player ID when I get inside of the specific file. And let's get this file set up. So here's my top level. So let's move this to the side. Actually, let's give me some more space. We're going to use a lot of the same things that we did here. We're going to do the use params. We're going to use use outlet context, and then we're also going to have to parse the int again to get the team ID. So we're going to copy team ID as a basis for this new file. And this is going to be called player detail. And like I said, so we know we're getting a team ID and we know we're getting a player ID. And what we can do with that is I can get the team, and then based on that, I can get the player. So I know the player is going to be my team dot players, and then the index is going to be structured the exact same as this, because like I said, it's got the off by 1. And instead of team ID, we're going to use player ID here. So that's actually my team and my player. So now if I can say player details, and so we should have our team name of our team, and then we'll just leave this padding wrapped around here, and I can go in here and say team, and I can go in here and say player dot name. And let's see what we get. Oh, I did not link. Yeah, this is still teams.3. It's not. I didn't set the link properly on the specific player. So let's go back to the team index. See, it's still showing the old one, but here we went teams. This should not be play. All right, teams.player. So it should take me to teams, and then the next thing is I do want player ID, but I want it at the end. So copy the player. Did I say player or players? It's player / let's turn that back to player, and this should be my team ID, not my player ID. It's hard to see, but if you see down here at the bottom, when I move, you lose it. But if you see at the bottom left, you can see how the route is being constructed with the team ID and the player ID, which is exactly what I want. So let's see if it works. So let's go to player 1, team 1. Player details, well, that's spelled wrong, so let's fix that. Player details. Oh, I didn't put the player name down. So I'm getting so my team 1, player 1, team 1, team 2, there's no players. Oh, my back is taking me too far back. So let's fix my back. So this back should be teams. And then I need to do some string interpolation again down here. So let's wrap this. And like this, slash, $, team ID. Let's see if this does. There we go. So team detail, player detail, back, team 2, there's no players, we just go back. And I think that's where I'm probably going to stop for this part of the video. Once again, the emphasis here was just kind of understanding how these nested routes work. And so just to go back over from the top, we have our default index where I want to redirect back up to my team. So I redirect to teams, and by redirecting to teams, it is going to render, first it's going to render this, which is really my top level component. Let's get this out of the way. First of all, it's going to render this, which is my top level component. And at the top, for now, I just have all my data stored at the top. Like I said in the follow-on video, I'll move this to Prisma and I'll do a couple other things. So I'm passing my teams down using the context on the outlet. And then this is my outlet where basically every of these routes in this directory will be rendered through this outlet. And this top level component teams will stay consistent. One of the things I'm going to do is, I'll just add it now. So if I say link, new team, right? And we can say to create team. Import link, and we can see across our top we have our new team. And then because this is in my top level component, you can see as I kind of navigate down through everything that everything at this top level component remains the container, and any of the layout or anything that I do here stays through the whole navigation path, which is exactly what I was looking for. And we'll do the new team later when we integrate Prisma to show how we're kind of adding components. So, and then the other thing we touched on was using these parameterized routes. So I can pass in these values. So you can see how on my route I'm getting different parameters that I want to pass down to teams. I'm getting the ID. If you look down in the bottom left corner, sorry, it's in small font. And I'm passing the ID through, and they're being picked up by the use parameters on the route. Also, just to let you know, and I'll show in the next video, when we actually have a loader, you can get access to these parameters inside the loader to get the data you want. But I think this video's kind of gone on for a while. I have all the source code for this. I will provide the link to this Stack Blitz application so that you can see how it all worked and kind of play with it yourself. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Like I said, it was just my way of trying to work through understanding how nested routes work in Remix. Thanks, and see you next time. Bye.